Mr. Beadle's Bothersome Bag. Once upon a time, 12-year-old Dion Walters walked happily into Mr. Beadle's baker shop. "I'd like a sausage roll, please." "Sure," said the bearded Mr. Beadle, reaching into the large glass display counter in front of him with his tongs. "Shall I put it into one of my special paper bags?" he asked. "Yes, please," said Dion, somewhat unsure as to how a paper bag could, in any way, be special. Mr. Beadle pulled a candy-striped pink and white paper bag from under the counter and placed a sausage roll inside it. "That'd be 90p, he said, holding out his hand. Dion gave Mr. Beadle a pound coin and Mr. Beadle returned his change and Dion left the shop. He walked happily along the road to the nearby park, sat down on an old wooden bench and pulled the sausage roll from the candy-striped bag and started to eat. He placed the bag beside him on the bench. As he ate, he thought he saw, in the distance, a hamster in the playground area on a slide. He blinked his big brown eyes in disbelief, and, when he opened them again, the hamster had gone, replaced by a man carrying an ice cream. Dion finished his sausage roll, brushed the crumbs from his red tracksuit, and got up from the wooden bench. He was just about to pick up the paper bag from the bench and put it in a nearby bin, when it suddenly fell onto the path in front of him. "That's odd," thought Dion. "I can't feel any wind blowing." He bent down to pick it up, but as he did so, the paper bag mysteriously moved away from him again. "Oi!" called a male voice from behind him. "I saw you drop that. What do you think you're doing?" Dion looked behind him. Walking in his direction was a middle-aged man in a smart green uniform, wearing a cap with the words "Park Warden" emblazoned across it. "I was just trying to pick it up and put it in the bin," said a flustered Dion. "Ah, sure you was," said the disbelieving Park Warden. "I hear that story every day from you youngsters. I saw you drop it." No, I didn't," protested Dion. "Then how did it get on the floor?" "It must have been the wind," said Dion desperately. "But there is no wind. Not today, not even a breeze." Dion shrugged. "I'm afraid I'm going to have to give you an on-the-spot fine." The park warden reached inside his uniform breast pocket and pulled out a small black notebook. "But what if I manage to pick it up and put it in the bin?" "Well," the park warden stroked his chin in thought, "that might be different, but you'll have to be quick as it's right over there now," he said, pointing much further down the path where the bag had now nestled beside a tree. Dion chased after the bag. The park warden chased after Dion to make sure he'd pick it up and dispose of it and put it in a bin. Just as Dion reached the tree, the bag flew upwards just out of his reach and hovered magically in front of him. It was as though the bag was teasing him. "There it is! Don't just stand there, lad! Grab it!" instructed the park warden. Dion lunged forward at the bag, but it flew higher out of his reach of his outstretched arms, and then it fluttered around a tree. Dion chased after it around a tree. The park warden chased after Dion around a tree. Round and around a tree the candy-striped paper bag went. Round and around a tree went Dion and the park warden until they both began to feel quite giddy and fell over. The paper bag floated up across the park, through the playground area, over the park fence and across the top of the hedge, narrowly missing a flying hamster as it did so, and down the busy road. Dion and the park warden chased after it. The bag flew between a couple of parked cars into the road and landed over the head of a large lady, Mrs. Spanners, who was out exercising on her bicycle. "Help!" she shrieked. "I can't see!" Just then, a blue car came around the corner towards her at speed. The young male driver screeched his brakes just in time as Mrs. Spanners threw the bag off her head and swerved uncontrollably past his bonnet before landing headfirst into a hedge. She got up, just in time to see a small leaf-covered hamster scurrying off into the direction of the park. The bag seemed to stop and wait for her. The car driver leapt from the car and helped Mrs. Spanners recover her bicycle from the hedge. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I'm okay," she said, looking down forlornly at her bicycle with its twisted and buckled metal frame. "But my bike," she wailed. "It's dead." Just then she saw the bag hovering in front of her. "Why, you caused this accident! I'll get you," she said, shaking her fist angrily at the bag. At that moment, Dion and the park warden ran past her towards the bag. The bag flew away along the road, and both Mrs. Spanners and the young driver joined in the chase. They chased the bag back across the road, up and down a hill, over a bridge and through a field. The bag flew up higher and higher and came to rest in the comforting leafy branches of a large and tall tree. Dion was the first to arrive. "Oh no," he whimpered. "How am I going to pick up the bag and put it in the bin now? I'm sure I'll have to pay the litter fine now." He sat under the tree and had a think. Just then a squirrel ran past him and scampered up the tree. "I know, I'll just have to climb it." He got up and slowly and carefully started to climb up, branch by branch. He steadily made his way through the green foliage. As he neared the top, he had a fantastic panoramic view of the vast busy town that swirled below him. In the distance he could see the park, and in the play area, he thought, a hamster on a swing. He momentarily rubbed his eyes. When he looked again, the swing was still gently moving to and fro, but was strangely empty. He was interrupted by the arrival of the park warden, Mrs. Spanners, and the young driver. "Have you got the bag yet?" asked the park warden. "No, not yet," said Dion, "but I can see it." He leaned forward and reached out to pluck it from the leafy branch. As he did so, the bag flew away. "Bother," said Dion, carefully climbing down the tree and being careful not to tread on the squirrel's nuts. The bag flew higher and faster than before, back over the heads of its pursuers. It flew back out of the field and past a portly, grey-haired policeman. "Quick, arrest that bag!" they all shouted, running frantically past him. P.C. Weld scratched his head. "That's unusual for a Wednesday," he said, before reaching into his pocket and producing a whistle. He blew heavily into it and gave chase. The candy-striped bag made its way back across the bridge. It flew past the small Jack Russell dog, who was taking a walk with a woman in the bright sunshine. "Wow, a large butterfly," thought the crazy dog, and began to chase after the bag, dragging her owner behind her. The dog pulled so hard the woman fell on her knees to the ground and was forced to let go of the leash. "Wait! Pippa! Stop!" cried the woman after the dog, but it was too late. The crazy butterfly-loving dog took off in hot pursuit. The bag flew up and down a hill, across the busy road, through a park, avoiding a familiar-looking flying hamster, and headed towards Mr. Beadle's baker shop. "Welcome back," said Mr. Beadle. "Quick, hide under the counter," he said. Just then, Dion ran into the shop, followed by an angry park warden, Mrs. Spanners, and a young male driver. P.C. Weld stumbled in. He was so red-faced through exhaustion that it looked like he had been inflating a hovercraft through a straw. Pippa, the crazy dog, was last to arrive. "Back again?" said Mr. Beadle to Dion. "What can I do for you? Another sausage roll?" "No," said Dion. "We've come for that bag. We need to find it and put it in the bin before it causes any more trouble." "Trouble?" asked Mr. Beadle. "How can a silly old paper bag cause trouble?" "Well," said Dion, "if I don't find it and put it in the bin, the park warden will fine me for dropping rubbish." The park warden nodded in agreement. "I need to find the bag," said Mrs. Spanners, "and put it in the bin where it belongs, 'cause it killed my bicycle." Mr. Beadle looked very confused. "It nearly caused a terrible accident," said the young driver. "I almost crashed my car because of it. That bag is a menace." "I've been whistling so much chasing that bag, begging it to stop, that I've lost the P in my whistle, and I need a new one," puffed P.C. World. "Bag? What bag?" thought Pippa. "Where did that nice big butterfly go?" "We know it's in the shop," said Dion, "because we saw it come in here." "Oh, did you?" said Mr. Beadle. "So, tell me, what exactly did this bag look like?" "Well, it was pink and white, stripy, and made of paper." "You said it was a special bag, remember?" "Ah, yes, so I did." Mr. Beadle reached under the glass display counter. "Perhaps you mean this one," he said, putting the pink and white stripy paper bag onto the counter. "Yes, that's it. That's the one," said Dion confidently. Mr. Beadle reached under the counter again. "Or this one," he said, placing an identical bag on the counter in front of him. "Or this one, or 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 how about all these?" he said, triumphantly dealing out the bags onto the table. But, said Dion, "you see, I can't possibly let you throw any of these bags away unless you can positively identify the offending guilty bag. It wouldn't be fair on all the innocent bags now, would it?" "No, I suppose not," spluttered Dion. Everyone had to begrudgingly agree. "Well," said Mr. Beadle, wiping his hands on his apron, "if you've all had such a stressful time chasing after a paper bag all over town, I suppose you must all be feeling rather hungry and thirsty by now." "Oh, yes," they chorused. "So, what can I get you?" They all placed their various large food and drink orders with Mr. Beadle, and he put all their sandwiches and pastries into his normal candy-striped paper bags. He gave Pippa the crazy dog a paper bag of her own and threw it down the road for her to chase after, which she did, meeting up with her relieved owner en route. Afterwards, Mr. Beadle looked happily around all his completely empty shelves and his empty glass display counters. A man and his very hungry hamster walked into the shop, noticed all the empty shelves and counters, and walked back out feeling very disappointed. Mr. Beadle placed his special candy-striped bag back under the counter and patted it gently. "Good work," he said. "I've completely sold out of everything in the shop." He smiled. He went over to the light switch on the wall by the glass front door of the shop and turned it off. "Same again tomorrow then," he said, closing the glass front door behind him and locking the shop.